Back to the Greek alphabet. This is our last installment, letters Rho through Omega. Rho, Rho looks like an English P, and the lowercase rho is a little curvy letter. The equivalent in English for these two letters is usually RH, but can also be R. We had learned earlier in the year about that symbol, the chi rho. Chi being the cross that looks like an X, and rho being the letter that looks like a P. Rhoticism is an English word based on the letter rho that has to do with pronouncing the R sound. The Greek letter sigma, as a capital, you might have seen in a math class. It's sometimes used as a summation symbol. The lowercase sigma actually has two forms. In the middle of a word, it looks like this, and at the end of the word, it looks more like our lowercase s. I actually made this tail a little bit too long. Sigmoid refers to something S-shaped. Sigma stands for the English letters S. Tau is the Greek T. The lowercase tau looks like a capital with a little curve at the bottom of it. A tau cross is one that doesn't go above the line. Tau stands for the letter T in English. Back when we learned the letter epsilon, we said that the psilon part of the word is the Greek word that means short or simple. Same thing happens here with the upsilon. It just means the simple or plain U sound. Upsilon, as a capital letter in Greek, looks almost like a fountain. As a lowercase letter, it looks more familiar, basically like our U. It is transliterated into English often by means of Y, but also U. We often hear this letter called phi. Probably an ancient Greek, would pronounce it as P, with an extra H breath before the vowel. Capital phi looks like that. Lowercase phi looks like that, or when written quickly, like that. And this stands for PH. So many, many English words that have a PH in them, you can tell they come from Greek because we're really transliterating a phi. Again, chi is the common pronunciation, but you might hear somebody say ki. We already talked once about the chi rho, a rho with a key. Capital key, lowercase key. And this stands in English for CH. So many of, especially the hard CH. So when we hear English words like architecture or character, we know those words come from Greek because of these letters. Chiasmus is a figure of speech, which is to say, a way of arranging words, especially in a speech, that makes people want to listen to them. A famous example of chiasmus is from John F. Kennedy's inaugural address, in which he says, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." It's the ABBA arrangement of terms. So ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Again, this letter might be pronounced psi or psi. And the capital psi looks like this. And the lowercase looks like a smaller version without the stem at the bottom. Many English words that begin with PS come from Greek because they have this letter originally in them. We read a story about Cupid and Psyche, and you can clearly see Greek letters in her name. Psi, Upsilon, Chi, Eta. So in Greek, her name would look like Psu. Okay. And finally, we come to omega. And mega is a root you may have seen in many English words. Mega means big or large. Omega means the big O or the long O. Omega represents a long O sound, and a capital Omega looks somewhat like a horseshoe, and a little omega looks somewhat like a W, because probably originally it was two little omicrons next to one another, and then it turned into this curvy W. We looked at the very first letter of the alphabet when we mentioned alpha, talked about the alpha and the omega are the first and the last. There is a brand of watches which are called Omega watches. Why might that be? And an omega dog is the opposite of an alpha dog. Omega dog has the lowest status in a pack. So one more time, here's the song that we began singing in class. So I hope you'll listen to this and play it until you know it. One more time, this is how it goes. The whole Greek alphabet, all 24 letters. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda, mu, nu, xi, omicron, pi, rho, sigma, tau, upsilon, phi, chi, psi, omega. That's it for the Greek alphabet.